Hello, everyone. I'm Judy Van Wyk.
And I'm April Barber. This is the second episode of the 98% Life After Prison. According to North Carolina Department of Public Safety, more than 22,000 inmates are released from North Carolina's state prison system each year. 98% of the inmates in prison today will be released in the future.
Today, we're going to meet people who have been released within the past year and hear what their transition back into society has been like. As we'll discover, these individuals may share similar challenges, but their experience with reentry could not be more different. The first person we'll hear from is my friend and podcast partner, April Barber. April, you were arrested at the age of 15, tried and sentenced to life in prison. Then more than 30 years later, you are one of 3 people who had their sentence commuted by Governor Cooper. Can you tell us how it was that it came about that you were released, and also describe the moment that you found out your sentence had been commuted?
Well, my case, because I was so young when I went in, the case had been being worked on for about 7 years prior to that. There had been some law change, but none that really directly impacted me. Miller and other cases kind of indirectly affected me. So my lawyers were in thought and in preparation for, just preparing a plan that they could have in place. About a year prior to my release, Governor Cooper put in a committee called the Juvenile Sentencing Review Board. They review cases of juveniles that committed a crime under the age of 18. Due to my record, which honestly I can't say was exemplary, but it was luckily better than most. Few infractions, that means, things that were against the rules, and positive home plan, good work history, and just doing what I'm supposed to do. That was what made me eligible for the release. So with all of those things, factors considered, and the amount of time that I had served, which was actually 31 and a half years. So March 10th, I got the word that my sentence, along with 2 others, had been commuted. Now, the next thing was, it takes 14 days for the paperwork to be done. So you actually have to sit 14 days. My release date was actually March 24th. And I promise you that was the longest 14 days that you will ever have in your life. So when March 24th came, my team of attorneys, the advocates that had been fighting for me, and my son, who I gave birth to in prison, were all there to greet me. The challenges that I have had since I've been out, of course, were finding living arrangements. I stayed with a friend for a while, but of course, living around people day in and day out, you eventually want to get your same space, your own space. So I tried to get my first apartment. And of course, when he did the background check, I was shied away from. So that kind of discouraged me for a while. But, like I've always done, I just kind of picked myself up and found another place and randomly called this number and said, to myself, either they're going to let me live here or not. So he did. He gave me a chance. And that's how I came to get that place.
So when you say that the first place you were passed over, what happened? I mean, did they ask you about your record? Or?
Well, I decided to be one of those people when you get out and just be totally transparent and not go into why I was there, but just explain that I had been incarcerated, in case, someone randomly sees a parole officer driving by or stopping by, I'm sure they would wonder. The neighbors would begin to wonder. So he was kind of hem-hawed around and never came and said anything. So I would follow through, a week or so. And then finally he just said, no, I rented it to somebody else. So they just kind of, let me down a little bit. But I was like, geez, if I'm not allowed to be who I am, will the world always perceive me as being someone who had been incarcerated, or will they see the person that I am now?
And that can be a very big challenge for people because there's so much stigma around the word felon and incarceration. What do you think the biggest hurdles have been during your transition?
Well, that was one. Luckily, I had a job when I initially was released because of some of the trades that I had obtained in there, one being a paralegal. So the attorneys that had been working for me in the past, I had developed a relationship with them. So actually my initial job was paralegal. So that's the work that I started doing. But paralegal is part-time, and I wanted a job with a specific chunk of time. So I had a wonderful reentry counsel in this particular county, and they just asked me if by chance I would go meet with this guy. I think they had already kind of decided they were going to give me the job, but I still had to go through the interview process, which of course I hadn't gone through before. So I went through the interview process and met with the one that was soon to be my supervisor, filled out some paperwork, and I've had a full-time job ever since.
So it sounds like you've had support each step of the way, would you say?
Yeah. Support is a big thing. When I was in there, I did develop some relationships with some advocates, some formerly incarcerated people that have served a little time, and just various people that I've written and asked for help along the way that couldn't specifically help with my request, but were there to just at least pick up the phone or write a letter.
When we come back, we'll hear about a very important person in April's life, her husband, who she met while she was in prison. Stay tuned.
They had a service club. I was working at Visitation, where we have fundraisers. You take pictures with the family members, and there's one that takes tickets and one that takes the pictures. This gentleman was visiting a family member of his and happened to inquire as to who I was. We began writing, and about a year later, we decided to get married, and we've been married 10 years so far.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure that he's been a lot of support.
He has. He's been a great deal of support. He provided stability for my future, as well as the last few years of my transitioning out of prison, because we didn't initially know that I was going to transition out of prison. Like I said, the governor commuted my sentence, but my initial sentence was 2 consecutive life terms. So I was technically not eligible for parole until 2031.
Wow. It sounds like you've had as easy a transition as is possible, that you've had the support. You're very goal-oriented, and you've just gotten on with it. Did you say that?
Goal-oriented or stubborn. Yeah, whichever one stands out the most. I guess I've just always been known to be a fighter, not physically, but you've just always had to be mentally, well, and sometimes physically prepared in there, because you never knew what the day was going to entail. And as I decided to settle down more so and not get into trouble, inside, well, the main one thing that I used to tell them all the time was, don't fight with each other. You have to fight the system. So if you don't speak up for yourself and try to fight for your way to get out, then you'll always be stuck. You'll always be stuck inside. And when you're stuck inside and you're stuck inside mentally, it's 10 times worse than be physically confined to any facility.
That's a very great advice to people who are on the inside. Very difficult to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But very good advice. Now that you are out, what has been the hardest adjustment? I mean, has there been an emotional adjustment that you've had to make, or?
Well, emotionally, most of my friends are inside. I have met some people along the way, but I'm able to communicate with them still, via phone and the tablets and things that they have now. My biggest adjustment is probably I get frustrated with myself for not knowing what I think I should have known. You know, what's been happening in the world for the past 30 years plus. You know, I just get kind of frustrated with myself for not knowing what everyone else knows. And the one thing they probably tell me is to slow down. And it's not that I feel like I'm overwhelmed or going fast or even trying to catch up. I'm just trying to normalize life sometimes.
You're trying to make up for lost time, do you think?
Some things I know that I cannot make up for lost time. Like I probably shouldn't get out there on a skateboard, you know, or roller skates, but it doesn't mean that I might not think about it. So
just one more question, and that is, if there was one thing you wanted to say about your experience that you wanted to share with the world, and with other people who are still behind bars, what would that be?
Prison, I'll say, is a place to get to know yourself. Because even though you're surrounded by sometimes thousands of people, the only person that you truly know from the time you wake up to the time that you go to bed is yourself. And you need to take that chance to get to know yourself and have a plan. It doesn't matter if you were sentenced to 2 days, 2 years, or life. You never know when that sentence will change. So it's important to have a plan in place in case you get the opportunity to get out tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow, and you need to be prepared for that.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break for a minute, and when we come back, we are going to meet another person who also had his sentence commuted at the same time that April did.
Yes, my friend Anthony Willis, he had a wonderful interview that I'm going to share with you. Stay tuned. And now we'll hear from my dear friend Anthony Willis, who also got his sentence commuted from the governor the same day that I did. Here's Anthony.
Hello, my name is Anthony Willis, and I was arrested at the age of 16 years old. I was raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and my incarceration was the most traumatic, lonely, depressing, scariest time of my entire life.
How long had you been in prison? You know, how many years? And what did it feel like to walk out that gate? If you can describe that for the audience to just understand just a snippet of how that felt the moment that you walked out that gate.
Wow, that's a very deep question. I did a total of 26 years. And just think about this. Going in when you're at the age of 16 years old, told that you will never have this opportunity that we're talking about here, never being able to walk out the gate unless you're in shackles and handcuffs with armed guards. And to be able to put on my clothes, the clothes I thought I'd never be able to wear again. I chose to wear a suit that day because I wanted to be a stamp that showed society that this is the life I want to have. I'm going to be successful. Because I had a mission in mind. But whenever I stepped out the gate, I seen the parking lot was full of cars. I mean, it was at least 30, 40 cars of people who were supporters to come from different parts of the state, some from different states, to be there for that day because they've looked for it for so long as well. But when I walked out the gate that day, whenever I saw their faces, I heard the horns honking and everyone screaming my name and saying things like, he's free, he's finally coming home. I just felt so much love. I felt so much peace, happiness, and I just knew that things were going to be okay because I wasn't going to be by myself. I had all these men and women, even children, who believed in me for all these years, who never turned their back on me. And now they're here for the day we've all dreamed and hoped and prayed for.
People often focus upon the logistical hurdles formerly incarcerated people have to deal with. They don't often talk about the emotional adjustment. Can you tell us somewhat about the emotional adjustment that you've had?
I think the biggest emotional adjustment for me would be for me to stop being my own worst critic. Because when I step into a room, I still view myself as that ex-offender, the ex-inmate, ex-felon. But everyone else, when they see me, they just see me. They don't know my past. But I'm so self-conscious of it. A lot of times I just say it I don't even know why I even bring it up. You say, what you been doing today? Haven't been doing much since I got out of prison. They're like, why'd you even say that?
Yeah.
It's like
I get that.
like a scarlet letter F on my chest for felon. It's like, that's what it felt like. So getting out of that, of knowing that, or thinking if I'm in a room and someone leave their purse, I'm like, let me get away from this purse because I want them to think I'm trying to take their purse type things. That's never in their mind. They're not thinking about that, but I'm thinking of that because I'm my own worst critic. And I think when we get out of prison, we have to kind of contend with knowing that society are willing to accept us, but we can't just don't give them a reason not to. If that's all we talk about, or if that's the only way, in the only light we present ourselves, then maybe they'll think that's all there is to us. But if we allow them just to see who we are, the person that the governor saw, the person that the Juvenile Sentencing Review Board saw, that gave them that confidence to give us a second chance. Let those same people in those job interviews see that. The same people in the churches see that. The same people in these nonprofit organizations see that. Yeah. Instead of walking in there thinking that that cloud that's over our head is visible to everyone, because it's not. One of my issues is that I want to do so much, and there's not enough time in one day to do all the things that I want to do. And I think it's because I missed so much time from my incarceration. Now I feel like I'm maybe trying to make up for that time, which I cannot do. But in my mind, I said, well, if I just do this, then maybe I will have time to do this, then maybe. And now you get to a point where now you don't really have time for yourself because you're overcommitted. Yes. And I find myself in that situation a lot. So I'm learning to manage my time so I can actually enjoy my freedom as well as being productive in the community. There's so many things I want to do, but the heart of it, the foundation of it is I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. And because of my experience, I would love it for it to be affiliated with the criminal justice system, because I never want the men and women that are still behind bars to feel like they're forgotten. I want them to know that I am out, but they are on my mind. And that if I can do or say anything to help them, to let the world see that people can change, we can mature, then I want to do that. There's so many men and women who are still in prison right now, who are probably sitting on their bed right now for count time, who are waiting for their time. There's so many men and women who think that they're going to die in prison. They see that person on a bunk next to them who just been given that medical diagnosis that they're going to die, and they're wondering when their time is going to come as well. I think hope is one of the most important things that we have to have in prison. And without that hope, that life's sentence that we have every day in our minds is just a death sentence. But hope gives us something to look forward to. And I think that's what my life is going to be towards, to try to make sure people know that there is hope. No matter what the situation may look like, that there is always hope. So don't give up, because the moment you give up, you never know what would have happened the second after, or minute after, or hour after. That breakthrough could come. That's why you got to hold on that extra hour, that extra minute, just in case that breakthrough does come. So I just want my efforts and the efforts of the other committees, because I know their heart's in the same place, to just make that decision to say, we got you. And we're going to allow you to know that there's hope for you, just like it was hope for us.
Wow. Anthony's description of his release is amazing. It's clear that he was set up for success through his own efforts and the steadfast support of his family and community. We're now going to hear a very different kind of reentry story. Antoine Blake was sentenced to 4 years in juvenile detention when he was 14 years old. Soon after his release, he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a condition in which he suffers intense mood swings combined with symptoms of psychosis. Antoine's last stint in prison lasted 7 years. After getting connected with the Durham Reentry Council, he was referred to STSG Transitional House in Durham. Describing his reentry experience, Antoine talks a lot about Bessie Elmore. Ms. Elmore is the director of STSG, and we will have a chance to hear about her experience running a transition house in the next show. Antoine also refers to Will, Tommy, and Scotzo, who are all peer support specialists who have mentored him. So let's take a listen to Antoine Blake reflect on his life and his reentry from prison.
My name is Antoine Blake. I grew up in New York City, the Bronx. Grew up in the ghetto. So I started hustling when I was about 13. I went to jail when I was 14. I never got out until I turned 18 in a place called Tryon Residential Center. Man, it was just like being in a jail. I mean, they have you locked in a room with a little cutout window where you got to yell at it. You got to yell for them to come down and pop your door, just to go to the bathroom. It was bad. 4.5 years of a lockup facility for a child. Mentally, it hurt me. Between the place and the way they treated us, it just made you rougher. Because in your mind, you're saying, if I could go through that, I could go through anything. I was just stubborn like that. I was just exposed to the life of prison so young. As I grew up, I started showing the psychiatrists that I can get myself back together. Jail kept coming like a revolving door, but my mental issues, it got worse. I came down to North Carolina, started going to jail again. Mental health started getting badder because I couldn't find my medication. So I got mad at somebody.
Can you tell me, when were you released?
I was released July 12th of 2022. Released to probation, and I'm going to, I've been through a lot from being released. I've been in the shelter, during rescue mission, but they tell me if you ain't able to work, you can't stay there. And I have a disability with lupus. So it's hard for me to get a job. August 20th, I came to STSG, and I've been trying to find decent housing. But I have somewhere to go. But it's kind of hard. Because like I said, you ain't got no income, you stuck. STSG, they have helped me because they helped me get my Medicaid started. They helped me get my ID. Miss Elmore, make sure that everything is all right. And Will and Tommy and Scott, so they stick by you to ask you if you need any help with anything, which could be, it's a good thing because now you got support behind you. Without this program, I'd probably be on the street trying to sell drugs again because there's no help, and there's no help in the system for you. I think about one thing and one thing only, not to give up. I might be a felon, but doesn't mean it stops. I can't see myself stopping and living on the street when I got a brain, 2 hands and 2 feet. You can't give up. Because if you give up, then people give up on you. But if they see you trying for something, the STSG will help you. It will. It's up to you to start the walk. And then they're going to walk beside you.
So you have family. Can you tell me a little bit about your family?
Well, I have one sister down in North Carolina and 2 brothers, and my mother stay down here. But they stay at housing authority, so it's hard to stay there, because housing authority got all these rules about convicted felons, and probation can't be there, so I wouldn't put them family in trouble. Even though I can stay, I wouldn't get them in trouble. I look at my brother, look at my sister doing good, mama doing good, my other brother doing good. It's time for me to do good. I have my ups and down days. I have my days where I just explode. And when I explode, I learn coping mechanisms. I learn how to look and just move away, not do nothing violent, just move away, because I keep thinking about what it was in there and what it is out here. Out here is beautiful because it's things that you miss when you're in there and you appreciate.
So you also have lupus, and I don't know that everybody knows what lupus is. Can you tell us what you've got and how it affects you?
It attacks your body from the inside. It destroys your white blood cells and make you vulnerable to be sick, in pain, deal with your muscles. I have an active lupus. With my lupus being so active, it hits me, and when it hits me hard.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that, just anything you'd like to tell people about yourself or about anything? I mean, anything you want to say.
Maybe one day I'll be a speaker to kids. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe even if it helped 1-2 people out of the audience, at least it got to somebody. Know what this is like. Prison ain't the thing. It ain't making you popular. Because when you go there, all your friends forget about you. So how popular is that? Oh, he was this, he was that. But he in prison. And look at him, try to impress people. That's what happens. When you try to impress people with something that you know you shouldn't do, you do it anyway. Like you want to get in trouble. To show your friends you're tough. You ain't tough, that's just being foolish, that's being childish. Tough is not how you fight in the street. Tough is the man that picks up the work clothes and the boots and put them on to go to work. That's how I see it. I used to look down on people that work because I was like, look, they working, look what I do, and I'm making more money. But they don't tell you in the streets, ain't no 401k plan in the street. There's no backup now. As soon as you get sick now, you stuck trying to get some income because you never worked. So always remember, you gotta have a 401k. You can't, the streets don't give you 401k. They give you a life sentence, but they won't give you a 401k. Yeah. That's what I got to say about that.
Wow. I can't believe that Antoine is doing as good as he is. He's really been through a lot. I can totally identify with a lot of aspects of his life, obviously, but I know that he's had a hard road in front of him. I'm proud of him, and I know that he will do great things with the right support.
He really wants to help kids, and he's really devoted to his grandson. So I think he would be a great speaker to kids
I
about
think he would be
them.
an awesome mentor to teens, especially to young Black boys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's our show for today. Join us next time when we meet Bessie Elmore. We'll hear how her son's 24 years in prison inspired her to start a support group for the families of incarcerated loved ones, and finally led her to open her own transition house here in Durham.
So stay tuned next time and see what we're up to next, along with Bessie's Elmore. Bye.